Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're heading back into the Ultimate Universe with Ultimate Black Panther issue 1 by Brian Hill and Stefano Caselli. This premiere issue dives into the political state of Wakanda and their young King T'Challa on Earth 6160, as we find the king has been given a difficult choice to make as Ra and Khonshu, the members of the Maker's worldwide cabal that controls everything, has begun encroaching on Wakanda's lands, taking over villages in their name. Brian Hill spends a lot of time with T'Challa and not Black Panther this issue, exploring a king who doesn't want a war and wants to free his people from some of their more arcane older ways, like that of the Voodoo Khan. A rather old concept has existed in the Marvel Universe since the 1960s, I believe, and hasn't really been used all that long, or really since the 1960s. So it's pretty awesome that Hill is taking some of these older things that we don't really see anymore in comics and reinvigorating them for the Ultimate Universe. Getting a look at T'Challa's rule without even so much as broaching his role as Black Panther is really quite interesting as well, since a lot of writers always put them hand in hand. If he becomes the king, he becomes Black Panther, and from then on he's really just Black Panther. And I like that that is the case here. He is the Black Panther as he is king, but it's more focusing on his kingly duties in this first issue. And we see that he's struggling with his rule thanks to these older traditions like the Voodoo Khan and the Dora Milaje. And the little council he has wants to go to war and open Wakanda up to the world at large. It's a great companion to the Ultimate Spider-Man book that came before it, which was all about Peter's journey, not Spider-Man's, and seeing these heroes as humans before they throw on the colorful costumes and start fighting larger than life villains is really quite cool. And again, something that's like a core tenet of the Ultimate Universe. It was always a bit more realistic when it came to these sorts of things, and I like that that's still a thing that's going on in this new Ultimate Universe. It's more so character comes before the superheroics, which is really cool. T'Challa begins learning of Khonshu and Ra's massacres throughout Africa and won't do anything just yet, wanting to err on the side of caution and get more information on what's going on, something that doesn't sit well with Shuri, who is still very much like the Shuri we know from Earth 616. She's a genius and she's a Wakandan princess, but this time around she's a little bit more militaristic than we're used to, using her smarts to build weapons of war for the Dora Milaje. Weapons she is eager to use as well. She's very keen to go to war, which is something very different from the Shuri we are used to, but it's a change I quite like, and I'm looking forward to Hill exploring that aspect about her, especially since her brother is so against war. There's a nice sort of dichotomy between the two siblings there, and that's definitely going to cause some drama in the coming issues. As I said before, one of King T'Challa's things that he's got to deal with is like the arcane ways of Wakanda and stuff from like his father's rule and previous rules that are sort of ingrained in their culture, and that's obviously the Dora Milaje and the Voodoo Khan who we see here. And I like that both of them are kind of presented as religious sects in this Wakanda. You know, there's the Voodoo Khan who he has to go to talk about his dreams, and they sort of give him counsel, and then there's also the Dora Milaje who give him counsel as well, and they're more militaristic, and some people believe in the Voodoo Khan and some people believe in the Dora Milaje. So I'm really liking this idea that they're religious sects and both are kind of vying for the king's patronage and trust, since they make it known that King T'Challa doesn't trust either of these sects, and it's really because they are of the old ways and he wants something new for his people, something that will free them from fear and paranoia that has gripped them for so long, hence why they are a closed nation. He wants to open them up a little bit more. So I'm really intrigued to see Black Panther having to deal with themes of religion in a rulership and the military and how they function and everything. It's going to be quite interesting to see what Hill does with these things that he has set up in this issue. Okoye is another interesting character as well in this world, as she is T'Challa's wife and queen, ruling by his side, and she isn't in this book all that much. She's peppered throughout it in really great spots, and sort of the vibe I'm getting from her is that she's one who's kind of pulling T'Challa's strings slightly, in a good way, and she doesn't seem to have anything nefarious planned, but she's sort of like helping guide his hand in his decisions and making it look like they are fully his ideas, and I quite like that. And I like that she is aware of her place as a queen in the eyes of the people, again feeding into this whole sort of tradition idea where she is meant to be the queen who is seen but not really heard, and she completely is aware of that and doesn't want to be that that, but does that because, you know, it serves the people and makes the people happy. And I like that there's this idea that they both are aware of that and are both working to fix that, and she's doing it by sort of aiding him in his decisions behind closed doors. And I'm very intrigued to see more of Okoye in this role, since I am so used to her as, you know, the Dora Milaje captain, you know, the leader of the Dora Milaje and that sort of commander in Wakanda's forces, not as someone of royal blood. T'Challa's inaction comes to a head when a village is attacked, and instead of being defended by the Wakandans, they are defended by the Killmonger and the Wind Rider. Killmonger's new look is great, and I quite like the idea that he's some sort of wandering vigilante that helps out his people across the continent. Wind Rider, while her identity is left a mystery, is pretty obviously going to be Storm, another interesting change as she is Killmonger's wife in this universe. I can't wait to see more of these two, as just in the short time they are here, they're only in for a couple of pages, they were some real badasses and they're actually getting some shit done, so I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Killmonger. And if Killmonger is actually Eric in this universe and not someone else, that's going to be another interesting change to see if they do something with that. In the wake of this attack, a soldier manages to get into Wakanda and tries to assassinate T'Challa, only for his father T'Chaka to die, thus cementing T'Challa's choice to go to war. Again, this was a choice that felt very reminiscent of stuff we've seen in like the MCU with how his father died in Civil War, and that brought T'Challa out onto the mainstream and allowed the Black Panther to sort of appear in public. It felt very much like this. There was a lot of things throughout this book that felt very inspired by the MCU, or things that the MCU is inspired by as well, and that was definitely one of those choices. However, the interesting thing here is that it's left me a bit suspicious of people like Shuri and the Dora Milaje, as they were eager to go to war, and then suddenly there is an attempt on T'Challa's life by Khonshu and Ra, the people he needs to go to war with. So it feels a little bit convenient, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was orchestrated by Shuri to force her brother's hand. And again, that's another really interesting facet of this, like that could definitely happen in this universe, and it feels like a very Game of Thrones choice, and I'm intrigued to see what he will do with that, what drama that will bring between these two siblings who, for the most part in Earth 616 universe, are on pretty good terms. You know, they've never really outrightly hated each other, so for that to happen in this universe would be definitely a big swerve, and definitely something very adhering to the rules of the Ultimate Universe. Stefano Caselli jumps into the Ultimate Universe with Hill and brings with him his cinematic, colourful flair. I love how clean the book looked thanks to Caselli's bold line work, and all of his Wakanda designs, while very influenced by the MCU, were great, particularly his Black Panther suit, which we only get to see right at the end of the issue and on the front cover. I quite like the open mouth design of it and how the mask looks more like a helmet. It feels more like an armor. It's not like what the suit has become, where it's become sort of like a very spandexy sort of nano fiber that sort of forms around him. It feels more heavier and bulkier, like an actual armor should be. So I'm hoping we get to see a couple more designs throughout the book, and what his designs for some of these other characters. Like, I can't wait to see his Storm design, which was teased a little bit in this issue. And if the book is also going to be very dialogue heavy, which this issue was, it was mostly people talking in rooms, he makes it very compelling. It makes it a very easy read. It flows very well. All the dialogue from Hill flows very well through his art, and I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of that, since it makes it just that much more interesting to have good art that backs up good writing as well. The Ultimate Universe continues to fire on all cylinders with Ultimate Black Panther issue 1. delivering an intriguing new look at Wakanda and the Black Panther. Brian Hill does some fantastic world building this issue that sets up the book's running story arc, and quite a few of the main players of the book, from T'Challa to Shuri to the Killmonger to the Wind Rider, all really interesting characters, and they're all given ample time in this first issue to shine, and I cannot wait to see what he has in store for us in the coming issues and how it will tie into the larger tapestry of the Ultimate Universe. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.